All right, welcome everybody. This is Media Agnostic Doom Journaling number two. The first time I was checking the first video and I accidentally said Media Agnostic Doom Journalism, which was almost the name of this open mic series, but either one will do. This is a Friday night open mic series. It'll be happening every Friday, 7:30 p.m. Central Time. My name is Morgenrede. This is Damn, sorry. I feel like I'm going to burp. Nope. Wait, no. So tonight we have four readers that are going to be giving us their amazing Doom like poetry, Doom like fiction, Doom like nonfiction. This is a Doom themed reading series, but it doesn't have to be gloom. It can be happy Doom, it can be funny Doom. This is just kind of everybody's way of uh, there we go. That's what I was trying to get out. I wear this clown makeup to be non-menacing, but to try and show people like, the tears of a clown. It's supposed to be lighthearted, supposed to be honest and raw. Like we talked about in our last reading series, we're trying to look for the extreme. And yeah, just to get it all out. We don't want the shit that you like to read. We want to hear the shit that you don't want to read, that will get you kicked out of writing groups, that's not family friendly, that kind of really just fucking gets that kind of stabs at the meat. So, anyways, that's what we do here. That's what we're all about. First up, and I always let people sign up early, but if anybody here wants to sign up to read tonight, just message in the chat, hit me up on Twitter or Instagram. I'll put you on the list. First up for the night, and also I want to tell everybody, and I also have this on the recording, it's Rudy Johnson's birthday, and Rudy Johnson was a part of Misery Loves Company with William Doria. That inspired this reading series. I just want to have Friday nights be a fun, eventful time again. And this person is a close friend. He's a good guy. I hope to hang out with him in LA when I go to LA for Christmas. This is ZH Gill.
Oh, what's up? I'm first.
Dude, you're first.
All right, so I'm doing an in-person reading tomorrow, and I'm trying to figure out what I'm gonna read at, and the crowd at that is a little more normal than this
Oh
crowd.
no. Like bookstore normal.
Yeah, but there's some really good people, but also I'm a little different, I think, than some of the other folks reading. So I want to read a new thing tomorrow, but it's not done and super long. So I want to read like the first part of it tonight and just see if you guys think it's fun, I guess. It's pretty silly,
Let's
I guess.
hear it.
So I'm only gonna read, I guess it's called Digital Vin Part 1. I'm only gonna read part 1. My name is, you guessed it, Digital Vin, and I live for the computer. In my semi-long life, I have so far, for the most part, flown under that grand radar of notoriety. My brother, however, you may have heard of. He invented the sport of screenboarding and accordingly founded the Screenboarding Global Tour, wildly lucrative, of which he's the CEO emeritus and executive chairman emeritus. And he is kindly bankrolling me these days. I live in the drained aquarium of his back house. The smell of me is dead coral, long dead coral. The smell of it is not too strong, but it is there. I could smell it. Now I smell of it. My girlfriend is my brother's ex-wife. Oopsie. But Brother Boy is actually sort of okay with this happenstance. Yes, he's glad I am the one looking out for her, ultimately. Sure, he misses her. Mostly we avoid him when we're together. But sometimes us three will take in an IMAX movie on a Thursday or Friday evening. Amicably enough. Minimal sniping. Occasionally some threatens to bubble up. My girlfriend is a hottie mama, totally, definitely. Not in the sense that she has children, she has no children. In the sense that she's scorching, she's cracking the deserts, if you'll permit my saying so, and also in the sense regarding the mama that she is 12 years my senior. We hold mostly the same values. Where we're far apart is she doesn't get my thing with the computer. She says computers remind her of my brother. I say, there's no escaping that. We are living on his property, my literal sibling. For her part, she was fully estranged from her own brother even before he died. Killed himself, that is the thing, and before it, his end, he screamed at her about every little thing for years, through doors or air free of door-like barriers. She screamed at him. Often she screamed first. Doesn't sound like it was a good situation. Then he went away. He went off to massage school and he never came back. And later on, he is when he died. And so she has some wires crossed, and is a touch confused by my relationship with my own brother alive, intense as it clearly is, even to the most uninterested, non involved bystander. But it's at a different pitch than she was with hers. Quieter and warmer at once, is how I'd put it. At the start of winter, I spent a weekend exploding computers in the backyard. Though I suppose that because I live in the back house, the backyard is, in factitude, my front yard. The girlfriend told me she was worried about me at dinner, my first recess from the incendiary activity, and then she told me again over breakfast, my second break, and half the lawn now eliminated. So, you may be wondering how I can get all these computers, especially and forcefully considering my present destitution. And that there is very valid. But well, remember, when I said my brother invented the sport of screenboarding? And so, there were just always plenty around the property. People, politicians, I mean, plus entrepreneurs. Always sending him monitors and televisions and all sorts of other machineries and electronics. There's two basements here, engorged with hissing hardware end to end, with only little pathways a foot across between the shining rows. Two basements both like this, under the main and back houses. This place is a hoot. My brother calls me into his study after months of shunning me. For a while there, we communicated only through email, which was hard for me. I love my brother, and email just isn't the same as, for instance, a warm hug and kiss. He calls me into his study via email, but that's no matter. How else would he reach me? He has fired all the help. We share a bespoke chocolate cigar on his Baroque sectional couch, pass the stub of brown back and forth, brother boy not looking so hot, pale as Elvira, fatter than Elvis, hairy like Howard Hughes. How's my wife? He asks. You're divorced, I answer. He clears his throat and says, yeah, that's not how it really works. To God. In his eyes. Oh, really? You got God on the mind? He's always on my mind, yeah? News to me, brother. In the end, brother boy forgets what it is exactly he's called me into his sanctum for. He departs the sectional, tumbling up like an old beggar, only to kneel over nearly immediately onto the adjacent psychoanalytic couch, bitching about one of his kooky migraines. Just typical. I grab an armful of computers before I abscond. At night, with my girlfriend in our aquarium's queen-sized bed, that lover's bed, which is our bed, with its lover's stains. And oh, it's queen size because of something the great McConaughey once said to some esteemed rag, which was along the lines of how the limited size of the queen mattress promotes holy intimacy and glorious communication at all times, though especially at night. We discussed the daily news, the new junk we saw getting ditched at the dump, plus the daily novel police harassments aimed at the junk ditchers. My wife, I mean my girlfriend, says, police are starting to divert the junked computers to the property. Police is delivering you plenty toys. Well, hallelujah. I don't like police coming over here in droves, or really at all. They know not to mess with Brother Boy. All of them, he could get me fired with one text message. And if they got all that hardware in their arms, carrying it over here and all, then what they can do to us as physical style is very limited. I still don't like it. Them pigs. We take Klonopin-laced licorice gobs to bring down the temperature and then bring it back up as we make love for hours, till the sun rises. And then we take a break for a light nosh before getting back to making love till the sun sets. We have nothing better to do, and anyway, this is the best thing to do, like, overall. And after our rollings, a plunge in the pool to eliminate the residual dead coral stench and also alleviate our chafings in cleansed, stabilized chlorine. I find myself nude sunbathing the next day, direct rays to the balls, good for the blood pressure. The act itself, good for the process of thinking. My process of thinking, at least. I think about the basements, wondering if their new walls, or if their walls can withstand the new onslaught of sparkling junk. I do not want to have to clean them out, but Brother Boy won't send the help down there. He said in an email they've got better things to do, and oh, by the way, they've been fired anyway. And the ones who are still sticking around without pay, they're baking him brownies and playing him in video games. I could take some dope and do it, but I'd probably fall asleep and crush myself under a burial mound of fallen gear. And my woman wife would be so mad at me because she has this no smack rule. It was Smack killed her brother. I mean, he killed himself with Smack, most likely. There wasn't no note. And I would have thought she'd be more into Smack because of this, delighted by Smack, for that is the extent to which she despised him. But no, she's disgusted by Smack and by me when I use it, which is semi-often. You're not on junk, are you? She asks, gargoyling over me spread across the Bermuda grass. She's in that blue dress, the flowing one with the fiber optics. Catching rays is the only junk for me these days, I say. Uh-huh. Changing the subject. How would you feel about being interviewed for Repurposed Aquarium? Us together? No, just you. The great digital Vin is what the woman said. Which woman? Who's this woman? Line went catatonic as she said her name. She's their managing editor, she said. Oh, it must be Sue Broadway. You know her? I did. I had. I had dated her, and had, in fact, clipped open her maidenhood. You're thinking about something gross. The wifey knew me so well, by every contortion of face. Who's this whore to you? She's nobody. Who is she? A lovely old friend. My girlfriend punts my glands. Probably she was like 10 when I was already a woman, you know. Through my brutal coughings, I manage you are 100,000% more of a woman than Sue Broadway. Oh, I'm sure. And I mean that religio-sensually, not sociopolitically, okay? Oh, ditto, ditto. Same here. But her raging and my writhing are pierced by the whoosh of rounded, smooth glass toppling over blades of Bermuda from across the backyard. And there is Gormless Brother Boy on a screen board. Oh, yes, the first time I've seen him on one in 10 years. Ahoy! He shouts, right as weakness steals at his knees and he crumbles into the pool. He makes a fine, fatty splorsh in the attendant wave, but then he lingers there in the deep end for one beat beyond comfort. I dive down after him, the sharp surface smashing my nads. Wifey and I gargoyle above my open hearted brother in the operating theater. What I'm saying is his chest cavity is bent open and clamped there in place with sanitary tools. She asks me, is this our fault? I mean, probably it is, to some extent, yes. Have we been flaunting ourselves to him? Honestly, I don't believe we have. At least, not to any great excess. Okay. One of the surgeons, in head to toe purple velvet scrubs, as they all are, cups his bloody hands over his paper mask. They're the only touch of severe white in their immensely pleasing outfits, and shouts up to us, Hey, you guys is the family, yeah? We dour nod. It's gonna be okay. He's gonna be okay. Yeah, I think so. You're brave to be watching us go to town on him like this. Most folks opt out of it. Hey, you're Digital Vin. The kids, they love you, Digital Vin. They do? Sure they do. They're always hovering their drones over you in the backyard, spying on your projects. Don't you see them? News to me. Wow. As his compatriots, heads down, continue at their slicings and drillings, the surgeon man pulls a phone out from an invisible pocket, pinches at it, says, Catch! And overhands it up to me. Play the queued up video, Teehee. I struggle to get the clip going on account of all the wet brother blood smeared onto the screen, my intact fluidless finger not registering. Rub a little phlegm on it, Digital Vin. You got my sacred permission. Okay, fine. Ploob of the tongue and squeak of my hands cleaner side. Video's called Digital Vin, I think, is setting up computer monitor dominoes in his backyard. Let's take a look, shall we? It gets going now. And there I am in the backyard. In the nude, yes. AI cloud blurring my private appendage, plus rear compartment, plus male nipples. Why? Lining up flowing tombstone rows and rows of computer monitors and flat screen televisions, rubbing my hands together in that plangent way I do. I love this effing life of mine, I yell to no one in particular, or at everybody in all places, apparently. The GF appears now from the back house, dressed haughtily for rec basketball. What's this shit, she says. I told you about my project. Can't keep track of your munificent projects. Well, be nice. We talked about this one last night at the expensive pizzeria. Oh, yeah. Coming along fine, by the way. Whatever you say. She punt kicks my private appendage. Kneel over, knocking into the final screen. They all domino topple one by one, harmonious bashing, glass crinkling, and then a solemn field of fallen pillars. I am fulfilled by my installation's success. You can see it in my eyes, despite the burning in my vast deferens. She says to me now, in the operating theater, I'm sorry, hun. Didn't mean to be so dismissive of your artistry. Here, I shout down to the scalpel doc, softball pitching, like swirling my arm, his phone back to him. He snatches it out of the sun-dusty air and gives me a purple glove thumb up. Says, What did I tell you? You're a famo. I never knew. I'll have to order a big tarp for encloaking the backyard. No, Digital Vin, you're giving us all gold. Well, I feel violated. That's simply the burden of public life. Your gifts to society far outweigh any personal costs accrued. I tell him I'll think about it. Wifey rubs my elbow in a you handled that interaction well sort of manner. Now the beep 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 of the electrocardiogram, which has so far underlined everything here, begins to dash. Brother boy is having a cardiac event. Ah, fuck, dude, he's dying, says the surgeon. I shake my head. Shit's caught up to him. Simply the burden of public life, adds the wifey, and I punch her in the shoulder. Lovingly, I mean. Thank you.
Damn it, you got me mid chew. That was so fun. I
Okay,
was
thank
like trying to picture, like because the language and the like reality of the piece were so like they were playing with each other. the sophistication of this like the first thing that came to my mind is like this is cyberpunk. Like cyberpunk outside of the cyber, like these people are doing this, it's almost like cyber jackass where this guy is just an influencer kind of, but not really. He's just a content creator of the things that create content, all of this junk, like junkyard cyberpunk. And there's, the mention of like the family dynamics, the drugs, and like, oh, that was his brother's ex-wife that he was dating, which I thought, like to me, I'm like, okay, that sounds like the South. But also when you're in these different camps of like punks, it's incestuous as you can get. But no, this was really, I mean, so are you planning to read this tomorrow?
Maybe. I don't, I might. We'll
I think
see.
I think it'll go over really well, because it's definitely relatable. Like I could definitely see myself like because I'm a Doom scroller. I mean, I'm fucking all about Doom. And so if I see some dude just fucking around with junk, I'm gonna be like, okay, no, I'm gonna watch. I'm gonna see what this guy has to say. Um, and just like it's almost so absurd that you kind of forget like, oh, this guy's brother's dying. Like this is sad. Like this is a sad situation with sad characters. There are, plenty of I love Brooks' quote in the chat, simply the burden of public life. This is truly, a burden of what it means to be, in this kind of cast of like not you're a famo, but at the same time, it's like nobody really knows the real of these characters, which I could definitely tell. Like, I could see you like going on a walk in LA and just seeing people and being like, all right, that's that character. I'm going to watch them for a second. This is that character, which is just so fun to think about.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Yeah. So great start there with something that's light-hearted Doom with some humor, with some eloquence there with the wordage used in this piece, which I always appreciate. Thank you so much, Gil. Yes, yes. All right, so we've got into the nitty-gritty cyberpunk. Next up on the list for this open mic, it is so I'm curious about this piece because it is apparently scandalous, and I love scandals. So Lisa Marie, you are up next.
I don't think it's scandalous though.
Right, exactly. It's only a scandal if other
Objective.
people. Yes.
This is a heavily censored version. The only part that's not censored is the opening, which I suspect is what got me iced out of everything, is me refusing to change the first sentence.
Ooh. All right, let's hear it. I'm excited.
Okay, so this is a host. His erection went soft, and he started crying. I cradled him in my arms as he wept. This was intimacy. I was used to it already. The work was hard. Still, I could think of only one thing that could make it all bearable. Paolo couldn't. It was his sweetness. I remember the day we met. I, tired of the geological review and reporting, went to survey the village. Armed with a walkie and trying to pick a good spot to begin digging, I came across a clearing near the prickly thickets about a mile from our settlement offices. It was my first field day and it had to be in the high 90s. The heat oppressively pounding when a caravan with a crew of young men passed. I panicked and began reciting to myself, Parlez-vous anglais? Parlez-vous anglais? Parlez-vous anglais? They were handing out water in the area and interrupted my harried thinking. What you doing here, miss? I handed over my ID and explained. I was scouting the area to make a well. I showed them the diagrams. The next day, the caravan passed again and again, and the following morning, the driver always had the same questions. I answered earnestly every time. The boys and I had the same job, but mine was meant to last generations. Only so much good can come from providing daily jugs of water. Spring of Life was meant to be just that, renewable, perpetual, sustaining. On the fifth day, the driver invited me to have lunch at their campsite. I was the solitary type, not ever mixing with my own staff or the locals. but I went along with them anyway. It was a fun little excursion, a break from all the exhausting bureaucracy. The unit was a mix of men and very few women dressed in fatigues and their signature white and blue helmets. My driver and the caravan crew were from the same place, Santa Teresa. They regaled me with stories from home. Santa had a rhythm, a musicality of its own, with its lively characters and winding traffic. Rodrigo pulled out his drum and imitated the sounds of Brazil. Paolo explained that although they were 5,000 kilometers away, home was still in their back pocket. Brazil never leaves you, because saudade follows, a nostalgia known only to those blessed with the samba spirit. They were preparing beans on a fire. I had my loaf. Paolo's eyes welled with tears as he mentioned his family. I held his hand, pretending to relate. Before I knew it, we were tumbling into my rickety cot, sticky from the heat and unable to peel away the layers of clothes that were between us. We could no longer contain our attraction. It was the first and last time we made love. Every night thereafter, he would sneak out of the compound and into my bed. Vamos falar, he would whisper into my ear. It was futile. He couldn't hold a conversation. Language barrier notwithstanding, every memory led to searing pain. I held him tight, retracing his ribs with my fingertips. I noticed a series of scars, rounded and depressed. He motioned with his hands and said, "Bang, bang." They were bullet wounds. "From here?" I asked. "No," he wistfully replied. "Creo, creo," and chuckled, then began to cry. My home was mending safety. I fled. I ran away to uncertainty, shunned going to the same old bars, to sing the same old karaoke songs with the same people and their non-problems of which this to buy or what that to get rid of. I didn't want that life. I craved the brutality of adventure. The digging began a month after that fateful meeting. Spring of Life started the paperwork for the well in June, 6 months in advance, but we were still having problems with the local authorities. They wanted payment for inspections by an entity that didn't exist when the town was selected. After some back and forth with our translator and their representative, we were able to come to an agreement. A week into our excavation, 2 tanks rolled into our territory. 10 men cordoned off the clearing, pitched their world flag. They demanded we cease operation and abandon the area. I screamed and hollered, but nothing worked. The day was cut short, and we were to rest and regroup for what was to come the following day. The first thing I noticed when I got to my shack was the white and blue helmet sitting on the only chair. It was Paolo. He came to warn me. He explained in his broken English about gangs and how they were planning to take over the town because of the well. The peacekeepers wanted us out. I couldn't believe it. For the first time in our short relationship, I cried. I cried until I threw up. Everything we had worked for was in vain. I told Paolo I wanted him to leave. He did, but was back again that night, whispering, "Vamos falar." I turned to him wanting just to fuck, but he couldn't. We lay there in silence, tears streaming down both our faces. I woke up vomiting. He said chills were common after an upset and prepared me a tea. But something else wasn't right. I felt lethargic for some time now, and this was just something that was already brewing. He assured me I just had to wait it out. After 3 days with nausea and a distended belly, I notified my superiors. They immediately sent for a car to take me to the city, to Port-au-Prince, to see a doctor. The hospital, if you would call it that, was a former hotel taken over by the United Nations. The console station had tarp for walls, and a gentleman with a French accent asked me about my symptoms, followed by more health questions. The last one took me by surprise. Had I been sexually active in the last 6 weeks? I, unconvincingly, answered no. It was just one time, but anything was possible. Supplies were delivered to the hospital in quarterly intervals. Tests on the biosamples wouldn't be ready for another week. Sent with bismuth. Paolo snuck into my bed that night like all the other nights before and whispered, Vamos falar. I cried again and told him what the doctor asked. He laughed and kissed my belly button. Vamos para praia. He was excited. It was the 18th month on assignment. Headquarters authorized a short Christmas stay at a resort across the border. A weekend away, meals included for the entire unit. He asked me to meet him there. Thursday, no one would say a word to the chief. I agreed, though I felt miserable. I let my supervisor know that the doctor demanded bed rest and took the bus to Himani. At the border, I showed my passport and bookmarked my documents with a couple of bills. Bribes always helped. They ushered me onto the second, slightly larger van. We crossed a bridge, 23 to a 15-person vehicle. It smelled of sweat and sweets. I sipped water and nothing else. After a full day of riding, we arrived at another bus depot. From there, I took a taxi to the hotel. Paolo was waiting at the hotel lobby. I ran to him. He lifted me into the air as I wrapped my legs around him. He carried me into the room and onto the bed. Still, he couldn't harden for long. I was disappointed, but took him into my arms instead of turning away. He hid his face as he let out his little sobs. I fell asleep quickly. It was a long day of travel, and I was not recovered. Paolo was crying again in hushed mumbles. I heard rambling on the phone. He was speaking too quickly for me to understand. He repeated, Ajuda mai, ajuda mai, ajuda mai. Please help me between snivels. I remained in bed, catching bits of whatever he said. I no sé parar de corar. I didn't know he sang. Before long, I dozed off to the sounds of his murmurs. That morning, I awoke to a beautiful breakfast. There was an assortment of wild berries and some green oblong fruits. He wanted me to try it all, but I was wary of eating anything strange. He insisted. I grabbed a banana, the only familiar thing of the bunch. He teased me by making monkey noises. Ooh, ooh, ah, ah. I laughed. This was our language, grunts and fragments, hand gestures and kisses. What we didn't understand, we filled with affection. The nausea had subsided, but my abdomen remained swollen. I tried to ignore the absurdity of our situation. How would this work? Should I just get it taken care of? Could we make it? He was 23 and I was 24, but others have had it worse. There were 6 months left to his assignment, and mine had been indefinitely postponed. I figured I should make the best of the time I had here. The weekend was a blur of children's play. We made sand castles and sand angels. There was no snow and no presents, but I was happy. I'd forgotten all my worries until it was time to go back across the border. Monday mornings are Monday mornings wherever you happen to be. It was no different in the village. The slog of company meetings and forms to fill out was daunting. We had to move on. Our contracts would expire in 2 weeks. Return flights were booked and ready. After our exit interviews, we had nothing to do. I had until Wednesday to wait for my results. When I arrived at the hospital, the doctor had my deworming tablets set to go. All the other tests were clear. I was both relieved and dismayed. The instructions were 1 tablet 3 times a day for 2 days. I was to drink a minimum of 2 glasses of clean bottled water with each pill. He warned of the malaise and the diarrhea that would follow. I made it clear to avoid any street food. That would not be difficult. Nothing made me more uncomfortable than unfamiliar eats. In my time here, I'd subsisted solely on bread and water, with an occasional mango and that banana. I lay in bed alone. Paolo did not come that night or the following. I was feverish and in pain and without anyone to comfort me. I missed my bed. It was the weekend and still no Paolo. The peacekeepers had overtaken the entire region. There were entry and exit points and curfews. There would be no classes for the children until the area was secured. The school was the officers' new communication hub. Insurgents raided nearby villages, and the intelligence obtained made our town the next target. The gangs were rounding up the kids and forcing them to march along with them. Were these rumors true? I'd never suspected the situation to be so dire. I would have never left home. I was glad this would be over soon, but worried about Paolo. It was nearing my departure, and I still hadn't heard from him. Nobody was familiar, not even Rodrigo or any of the others in his unit were around. Our occupiers were a whole new contingent of officials. There was no solace in the nighttime. I could hear the screeching of the walkies and the signaling of the crew through the paper-thin walls. There was gunfire and the rustle of bodies moving to and fro. There was a note on my lonely chair on my final day. 03448951. Cajote@hotmail.com. Beijos, Paolo. A phone number and an email was all I had left of him. I packed my bags and slid the note into my journal. I couldn't hide my lovesickness on the long bus ride to the airport. My colleagues, assuming it was work-related, assured me that our mission would bring us back and we'd be setting up border services in no time. I passively nodded. On the plane ride, I thought of all our nights together. I took out the note and scribbled ideas of what I would write to him. Paolo had a long time to endure before he could be reunited with his family. And to what life? Another town festering with crime and the risk of gunshots. I'd had enough. I was ready to leave, but unprepared for the ordinariness of a 9 to 5. I decided I'd pick up a bartending gig and ease into working a more dignified job later. At my mother's request, I had a physical at my regular doctor's office in a well-maintained clinic. I was in the waiting area where the televisions were all set to CNN. Suddenly, breaking, story developing, hit the screen. It was an earthquake, a devastating earthquake with an alarming death toll hit just outside of Port-au-Prince. I feared the worst. The receptionist called my name and I nervously entered the examination room. I heard you caught some of Moctezuma's revenge, my doctor said as he entered the examination room. I wasn't in Mexico and it was a little more than just the runs. I handed him Frenchie's notes and a copy of the Prozac Quintel prescription. Well, aren't you glad you're back to a place where you can touch the water? Your pregnancy test came back negative and you lost a few pounds. Sounds better than a vacation to me. It was news I already knew, but hearing it again stung. I'll send Janine in for some blood work, but you look good to go. I'm sure the care you received over there was appropriate. They know how to handle this stuff better than we do. Would you like some calamine for the rash? I declined. The worst was already over. I thanked him for his time. I departed and rushed to my computer. All the pages of my journal were dedicated to Paolo, but I hadn't contacted him since my return. I rummaged through all my belongings for his note. The handwriting was difficult to understand. I BCC'd every variation possible of the email address. KA numeral 1 XOTE. KA numeral 1 X numeral 0 TE. So on and so forth. I heard nothing. I tried calling the number but received an "I'm sorry, your call cannot be completed as dialed." I was doing everything wrong. Dialing out of the country required 011 plus the country code of 509, then 0344859. When the call finally went through, there was a pre-recorded message stating that the families would be contacted directly when the bodies were identified. My heart sank. I pored over the news reports and scoured the list of casualties. All survivors would be repatriated as soon as possible. Since I didn't have his last name, I cross-checked with local papers and official reports. At work, I was a therapist, listening to tales of romances gone wrong and unfulfilled hopes and dreams. I drank through my shifts and cried during the day. Desperate, I used my NGO credentials to obtain unreleased data. It was nearing February, and I still had no information about my gentle boy. International affairs reporting diminished as soon as the eastern seaboard blizzards were on the radar. Even the aftershocks were just another line in a laundry list of tragedy. On a snowy Valentine's Day, and for first many gin and tonic, I received a cryptic email. Tudo bem, beijo, Paolo. I never heard from him again. So that's my little story of doomed lovers.
Oh my God, that was so sweet. That was so, man, I love the transition here from Gill's piece of like these outsider punks to now this like passionate refugee love story, which, even if you don't know where they are, but I assume this is Central America, just the mixture of languages that you employ to kind of, you know, make this so tough for these characters to like get to know each other. But there's this one line where you talk about what is it? The language of affection. How it doesn't matter who you are, there is that affection, that passion, that desire between two people that can just create the most beautiful kind of love. And the trials that these people had to go through, where they were literally in camps, but they were still, the guy was sneaking into her tent, and they were having this this great intimacy. And the first line that you start with, I love that you talk about this guy's softness. He's the gentle boy. And, not a lot of people, I mean, men love talking about their wieners. I mean, I'll be the one to admit it. But the fact that use this, this time of, like, where is home? Like home is in him, but there is no place for these two lovers to call home yet. And he's trying so hard to give of himself to this lover, but it can't, but sometimes it's like it falls flat. He's too soft to love, and that, is so heartbreaking because he wants to love. He wants to, do what he can to provide. And it's just so, I love this story. I mean, I'm curious to know more about, like, I don't know, I'm curious to know about what you censored.
Well, okay. So the setting is Haiti, between Haiti and the Dominican Republic.
Okay.
It's a lot more language play um, between French, Spanish, Portuguese, and the English that they had to resort to.
Okay.
Um, so that was the first thing to go. Everybody was like hung up on how like I wouldn't explain too much because I didn't want to explain too much, mostly because the characters didn't understand each other.
Right.
So
Adds to it.
yeah, like it's moot to explain something that even the characters themselves don't understand. Obviously, I do understand this. I wrote it. But like even within the misunderstanding, I had to make choices so that somebody else that does understand the languages can see that they're still misunderstanding each other.
Right.
So I left a little bit of that in. Um, there was certainly a lot more physicality that I took out. My the first reading group I had was in my local library, and there were a lot of older men in the group, and they
Oh,
could like we would email the pieces, and like once they met me in person, because Hoboken is a mile, so I've been seeing these people all over. We just didn't like know each other until we were there writing in the writing group in the library.
right.
But like once they saw me, they just couldn't separate whether it was fiction or not. No matter how many times I told them it was like it's inspired by life, but like they
Right.
just couldn't separate, and they were just so fascinated, and it just turned into a Q&A of like how I live my life, and it was just so annoying.
Right. People questioned you so much that they didn't take you for what this piece was and what you were trying to convey through the characters, the passion, the romance, the intimacy. And, what I got immediately was this lost connection where, nowadays it's, the internet world and losing things in translation. But this is lost in translation, being lost, being transported from place to place to place, being watched over, but still trying to make something real come about and to find these connections.
Yeah, and then the next thing I censored was saviorism and Western influence
Hmm.
in third world countries. And the characters themselves, they wouldn't be white characters, but they embodied Western nationalism. So they still occupied um, a colonial position over the locals in the third world country that they were attempting to help. And they were very uncomfortable with that. They were just like,
That's so interesting because that's reality. Like not all refugees have this status where they are, outside of, Western white identities. Like there are plenty of, like I, I had a very interesting, I read this guy's biography where he was a refugee in Africa. He was from Rwanda, and he would talk about, yeah, we were refugees, but when we would go to these towns, the townspeople hated us. Like we were encroaching where they lived, taking their crops, because we were starving and we were being hunted because there was a genocide. And so, people have got to wrap their head around like both sides of the equation where there is a fight for resources, a fight for space, and also when it comes down to it, a fight for like kind of people love people that are close to you and like, new women come in and it's like, oh, new women or new men, whatever. And so you have to like take and keep what you can get.
yeah. But I, by far, what they complained the most about was that the narrator was a woman and she was unlikable.
What the fuck? That's so fucking dumb. I love this character. The fact that she had such empathy for this for her lover to mention his weakness I think was beautiful. I love characters that other people despise, like to me, like I'm the person that like when I hear about a person getting canceled, I'm like, I love them. I don't care who they are, I love them already. Of course, I read further into them, but there's something just so it's that somebody mentioned earlier, but like the brutality of oh, what was it? I craved the brutality of adventure. And so there is this kind of interesting, primal urge that we get through this adventure with like this strange person, these guests, these people, these places that are unfamiliar to us. And I'm so glad that you were able to just uncensored, show that. But yeah, I really hope that you write more pieces like this, Lisa Marie. This was great. Thank you so much for reading this.
Thank you for having me again.
Of course, and if you have any other pieces that get you fucking thrown out of writing groups or get, weird looks, weird stares, I'm so fucking
Oh,
happy.
it's like all of them because
Yes! This is the open mic for
literally
you.
the Noir series I'm working on, one of the main characters is married and has a lover, and the lover is the, I guess, the heroine or the anti-heroine,
Ooh.
and from the opening of the first chapter, you know he's married and has a girlfriend, and my romance readers were not having it.
Sometimes readers like you we love them and we hate them because like they don't get what you want them to get and they focus on the weirdest fucking things and it's like can't you just enjoy a goddamn story?
You can't. You have to give them the happily ever after.
Yes, and it's like no, no. People fuck up. People are crazy. People love for the wrong reasons. People fuck for the wrong reasons. Like, human nature is so complicated, and I'm so glad that you showed us how beautifully complicated human nature can be.
Thank you. That was such a lovely compliment.
Of course, hey, I live in Memphis, man. I see crazy shit, and of course, ZH Gill lives in LA, and all these other folks here live on the East Coast, and we just, we don't see the happily ever afters. We see the complicated, ever ongoing. Like that's just it is what it is.
Yeah.
Fucking cheers to that. Thank you so much, Lisa.
Thank you.
All right, things are spicing up. We've got
Hey, Morgenrede.
Yes.
Do you mind if I go ahead and if I go ahead and read because I have to leave soon.
Well, I reckon you're next on the list. Hell yeah, you can go ahead and read.
Great, thank you.
Perfect timing.
All right, awesome. Well, I just have two very short ones. Um, and because we're doing it on a Friday night, uh, it's gonna be like an MLC sort of style of weirdness
All right.
again.
If anybody has any black dick screen sharing videos, get them ready.
Yeah. So this one's called Glossolalia. The Pentecostal pastor mistakes my Tourette's for speaking in tongues. Bitch ass ugh lick butt fuck meow meow. That means God is good.
Yeah.
All right,
Okay.
this next poem.
You said it was okay.
This next poem is called Piss. Okay, this next poem is called Piss. Thank you.
Wait, was that it? Was that the piss poem?
Yeah, this is still the first poem.
Okay, wait, are you still going? Are you done? It almost sounded like you were chugging something. I'm like, is he gonna chug piss? I don't know
No,
what's going on.
this is
Okay,
the final line. Okay, this is the final line.
okay. Are you fucking trolling me right now, Cletus?
I was. I'm sorry. I had to make a silly joke in honor of the reading being back. So thank you for bringing it back, Morgenrede. I really
Of
appreciate it.
course, Cletus. When I was hearing you read yesterday, so yesterday was Eric Subpar's, no, wait, 2 days ago. It's Friday. 2 days ago, Eric Subpar published a book with Pig Rust Publishing, and there was a reading. Cletus was reading. Your pieces made me and Kim just fucking cry laughing. Like, I love how you were able to take the ridiculous reality of the South with religion, drugs, and to kind of morph it into your own and in just small, short little bursts. And also you're clowning the clown in the fucking reading, the open mic, which I appreciate. I always do. I'm just always so jealous with what you can do with so little. I feel like I have to try all day just to find a sentence that can make sense to get something going. But God damn it, Cletus, you're one of my own people, a Tennessee brother, uh, one of the best poets in Tennessee, if I had to fucking say, alongside Kim. Y'all are two of my close homies, and I'm glad to have met you, and I hope to see you sometime soon. I hope to be on a ticket to read with you soon. And I wish you luck with your travels. And I'm excited for whatever projects you have next. And I hope they involve fucking Tourette's and priests and dildos and whatever. And piss. We want more
Thanks, bro.
piss.
Yeah. I won't expose you to the shit poem that I have.
What? What? We're talking about number two. This is the second open mic that we're doing. I want a number two. I want a number two right here.
Well, no, I'm joking because the piss poem was just me pissing, so a shit poem
Fucking the piss.
would just be me shitting, I guess. But yeah, thanks a lot, man. Thanks for your
Of
kind words. I'll see you soon.
All right, I'll see you soon, Cletus. Thank you very much. Here, I'll let you go out with a fart noise. There we go. This is a very sophisticated open mic.
Yeah.
Oh God,
Bye,
I
everyone.
jizzed on my hand. I got my face makeup all over. It's all right. Anywho, Up next on up next on my reading list. See, this is a Doom-like open mic, but we're just it's been a long goddamn week. It's the end of the week. Let loose, hang out. Let everything hang out. Because this is fun. This is supposed to be fun. We're having fun. Next up on our list, the ever eloquent Mark Parsons.
Good evening. Wow. Uh, I've enjoyed the work tonight. Those two short stories we started with were really beautiful and engrossing. Just kind of falling into them and enjoying them. And they're very different, contrasting styles and content. I was listening to Cletus Crow's Piss poem and your commentary about it, Colton, and it reminded me there's an alternative band that was very active in the 80s, and they were they were kind of became a cult favorite in sort of the post-punk hardcore scene. And they were a group of guys from Western Kentucky. The band's name is Slint. And they recorded 2 albums in the 80s. And they were produced by Steve Albini, that we talked about last week. Kim knows his work. And in one of their songs, it is alleged, and I love their music, so I've heard this song many times, that one of the sounds in this track is, I believe, the drummer, who was sort of the mastermind, the creative, mastermind in a lot of ways of the band, which is different from other bands where you might have a vocalist or a lead guitarist. But apparently the drummer was really, really important kind of in their vision. And apparently it's him pinching off a loaf in the bathroom, and he's grunting, and he's really working it. And he keeps like saying the same word over and over, so you can kind of tell that he's taking a crap because of his inflection. And he keeps saying tweezer fetish over and over. And apparently, and it really sounds like he's taking a crap. There's nothing new under the sun, as King Solomon says in Ecclesiastes.
Beautiful.
Bear that in mind. Okay, so now after the scatological reference, I'm trying to think, is there any scatology in the poem I'm going to read? I don't think so. No scat in the poem. This poem that I'm going to read is from a sequence of 6 poems I wrote. And these 6 poems, a couple of notes about them. They kind of function as a book-length Hollywood epic. So kind of think Pound's Cantos, or Charles Olson's Maximus poems, or William Carlos Williams' Patterson book-length poems. So it's kind of an epic, and it's a postmodern epic about Hollywood. It's not really scholarly in any sense. It's just my own interests that kind of led me through this. And I didn't intend it to become this sort of book-length sequence, but the poems grew, and by the end, the poems were 30 pages long, and sort of became its own thing. One other detail about this is that all 6 of the poems are probably what T.S. Eliot would describe as metaphysical poems. And the metaphysical poem, as T.S. Eliot described it, was a poem that had a central conceit. And if you don't know what a conceit is, which I didn't when I was reading T.S. Eliot's description, it's basically a really elaborate metaphor, right? So kind of at the center of each poem is a very elaborate metaphorical image. And the way I think of it, and these poems in particular, is that this central conceit or image is like an axis, a vertical axis on a maypole. And like on a maypole, you have like the kind of ribbons winding around it. And sort of that's the way this axis functions, to sort of, you have this central image in the poem, and all these little details and images kind of orbit around it. And beyond that, I believe the point of the poem and of all my poems, I think, is just enjoyment and stimulation. So that's what this is. And the first poem of this Hollywood type epic thing is titled Orson Welles, after Orson Welles. And I'm posting a link in the chat box so you can follow along. It's the first poem at the top of the page, after Orson Welles. Sparkly and spinning and dotted with bluebottle flies, the impaction of fecal pop culture that's ossified excrement, a mirror ball of constipated narcissistic shit, revolves high above gliding light leopard print hide, reverse compound eye lenses arrayed on a spherical surface, projecting and scattering light from the embers yet glowing inside, the attendant below, who remain in their seats and enthrall to the pattern and swirl of the dots as the audience tamps their extended capacity magazines shaped like bananas against Kevlar flared helmets, seating the primers of cartridges flush to the walls of the chambers. A plain weave of thick battened sprung hardwood floor creaks when the heavy, like a penguin, waddles out and wheezing skirts the crowd, wholly cooperative, parting for this man, stirred to the dais like cream in a coffee, stunned at the gravity of an object much greater than him, stirred through the crowd to the dais, his movement centripetal, stirred through the big crowd. He's used to the cheap seats, this newly centripetal man, dressed like a rich Uncle Pennybags, Mr. Monopoly Man. The crowd parts and makes way for Black Hat, the fat man, bouncing on balls of his feet as he bobs in the spotlight that tracks him while coming to get his award. It's his lifetime attrition award. Doffing his Homburg, kettle curl brim and white knuckle damp hand, with head bowed, a black satin scarf pussy bow hung around neck and limp under gray beard. Everything's Jake, 'cause the jailbird's no longer in jail. As he mentions tonight, we're all of us Jews anymore, and black, all of us black anymore, still sharing his clemency after a lifetime of shame and professional infamy with those other survivors, then going on to make his pitch, inviting everyone who's anyone to the never ending party, his fantasy inflicted on reality. Is he pathetic, prophetic, ironic? This maverick director, so lately led in from the cold of artistic irrelevance, pouring his heart out in front of a sunset as yellow and round as a lemon, while indigo slides down the curve of horizon, refracting the bright metal points that are stars on the fabric of twilight. Tan trench coat snug over corpulent shoulders and trunk, wind whistling, foam windscreen tapping the microphone, his eyes wet and heart full, voice trembling. He recites Shylock's speech in the Arizona desert at night. Is he thinking of the future, of whatever career he may have now that the past is atoned for, slights imagined or real but inflated? Does it matter? An angry man who is gorged on his feelings of anger and rancor, his whole life been deprived of depriving an audience, necessarily mass, of his genius, been cheated of cheating the public of work he was never permitted by fate to complete. He watches his lover and muse, former porn actress, now a reality show starlet, walk down a somnolent Mediterranean late summer afternoon sidewalk. Her light tissue thin sundress molded to apex of hips as it traces her abdomen, showing the clitoris, beaked and unhooded, a hard bud that promises pleasure, but whose? The taut fabric slit yawns with each step, the wide A-line hem tugged in the cleft of her thigh gap. As she struts like a model who's walking a catwalk, the old European pedestrian square, lined with the faces of men who have faces like battles they lost to the blitzkrieg, their heads turning, necks craning, eyes keen and far-sighted, hands wiping slack open mouths, as the woman he needs, because she doesn't need him, walks away, always walks away, her indifference sublime as gravity. His daughter, years later, asks him, is there like video footage of you two together?
My bad. I didn't mean to. I stopped the recording. That was fucking great, Mark. Oh my, is that your only? Is that the one
Yes,
part?
that's it. I'm done. Yep.
Oh my God. Started off with the shits.
As soon as I read that, I was like, oh, and I told them there's no scat. And then, like, the very first line, I'm like, oh, yeah, I guess there is like some really disgusting scat.
It's it's so interesting. So like when I think of Hollywood, I think of earlier this year when David Lynch died, and that and Logo, a Twitter personality, he basically tweeted like the death of Lynch comes the death of Hollywood. And that old timey picture show, like I kept having this image of like the New York movie by Edward Hopper of like the woman in the theater just kind of alienated from everybody. She's probably in the movie and other people are watching her as she's kind of within herself. Like there is just none of that Hollywood left. But as the story progresses, we keep going down the spiral. It's almost like kind of like Boogie Nights, where we get into this pornography of I get not reality entertainment, but the fantasy inflicted upon reality. I love that line. Um, it's just so hard to really engage with Hollywood anymore because you start to see just just again, the brutality of what it does to people. And I'm honestly kind of scared. I'm going to LA for Christmas and I'm like, man, I hope I don't see like my favorite, child star like homeless on the street asking me for like $5. Like that's gonna be some shit, man. Like it's but I'm glad that you approached this topic with such beautiful imagery of from inside the theater walking out with, the nice penguin, tuxedo laced entertainers and just this kind of beautiful, like scatological, presentation of it all, which is, it's not easy because and again, I'm rambling, but I'm just finding so much within this piece. I think about the end to the Beatles' White Album, which is Good Night, which is I think one of the few songs that Ringo sings, and it's got this like Disney orchestral sound, and it's after Revolution 9, John Lennon, when you're like, what the fuck? You're gonna follow that? And so that's kind of like what I felt with this poem is there's just this, you know, insane, existential, like kind of visceral imagery of Hollywood. There is still elements of the beautiful, because when I go to a theater, I do try to like put my phone away. I want to engage with the screen, engage with what's being presented to me. And I don't know, it seems like there is this somber good night to what that was and what it will be, to the Orson Welles, to the John Hancocks, to the David Lynch. And it's sad. It's just, I can't say it simply or than just it's sad.
Yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about. This is something that's been talked about at different points. This idea that you know Hollywood has kind of it's gone.
Yeah.
Uh, and it's been replaced by what you mentioned. People, everybody's kind of into their own little phone world, and kind of blinkered like that. And there's a sadness to it, that because it did bring us together in some amazing ways, and it was something that everybody could share in across all socioeconomic classes. And these stories that we watched became our lives, and we superimpose them in our own lives collectively, and they kind of became meta narratives, right? For our society and for our culture, and and that's we it may take us a while to kind of understand what we've lost, but you really hit the nail on the head.
Thank you. Yeah, and I feel like I said John Hancock when I meant to say fuck, who's the director of Vertigo? Fucking
Oh, Alfred Hitchcock.
Alfred Hitchcock. That's what I meant to say. I was like, did I say John Hancock? Yeah, but it's I'm watching Twin Peaks right now, and so that's David Lynch's dipping his toes into the '90s soap opera, and it was just so beautiful and so tacky, but so Lynch. But I like what you said about how Hollywood enmeshes itself into the meta narratives because when I think, especially with the holidays, like I'll never forget sitting on the couch with my grandfather and all we would do was watch National Lampoon's Christmas Vacation. That was our fucking shit. It was just such a fun little tradition that we would have. I didn't know what the hell was going on because I was a kid, but now I watch it and I'm like, I can recite this movie unconsciously, and that's because it was just such a unique piece of entertainment. Um, and same with those old Disney movies, and just so much. But I'm glad that you approached this topic because it's hard, and a lot of people, we're in our own worlds. And I'm glad you brought up pornography because I went to college with this one woman, and she is now a porn star with over like 1 million followers on Twitter. And it is so surreal to be like, I saw her on campus. I used to just casually go to class and see her, and I was like, damn, she's pretty cute. And like, yeah, she's 1 million followers watching her being fucked hot. And that's, like the entertainment of what was once, these beautiful epics on a screen is now just in your pocket, in your house. You're just gooning for gooning's sake, which is like, I mean, hey, I'm not against a good time of gooning or whatever, but these micro entertainment you know pieces that people can create, whether it's writing or porn or even some of the small movie makers, which I know Gill, you're in here, and you're dipping your toes into filmmaking. It is not easy. It can be thankless. It can be difficult. It can be risky, but people still do it. And that's why I'm doing this open mic, to give confidence to people and to let people read. And this is how I got my start with being creative, was feeling like a weirdo. I found Misery Loves Company, and I got to find my company of weirdos. And Hollywood is full of fucking weirdos. We never saw it, but now that we have Wikipedia, we can see how fucking weird people were behind the drapes. But still, what they were able to create when they were all jacked up on cocaine and all of those performing drugs was really something. And who are we to judge them when we're just kind of struggling to really make it day by day, just to make something that we're proud of, that maybe a few people on an internet connection will appreciate. It's I don't know, existentially satisfying sometimes. Oh my gosh. I'm trying to pick my nose without picking away my face paint. It's a struggle over here. Mark, thank you so much for reading. As always, love your work. Thank you for sharing.
Thank you for hosting this, Colton. It's a pleasure to be here and to get to listen to everyone. So thank you.
Of course. Okay. Uh, so now there is nobody on the reading list. I'm gonna open it up. If anybody wants to read, message in the chat or get off mute and tell me, or else I'm gonna read something. It is a piece that is unfinished, but I want to read it because it's silly. But yeah, if anybody wants to read here, I need to check the main chat. Anybody going once? Anybody going twice? All right, we're gonna read my silly piece. I'm gonna get it up here. It's not published. It is unpublished at the moment. It is my attempt at doing nonfiction. Well, no, it is. Yeah, no, it's fiction, nonfiction. Basically, there's I want to try to see if I can find their website. There's a kidney disease summer camp in Hickman County, Tennessee. And yes, Hickman County is a real fucking place in Tennessee. And it's called Camp Okawena, and it's real. I'm gonna see if I can share the link in the chat. And basically, I know this guy who's a nurse, and see, was that able to? Yeah, there we go. He was a dialysis nurse specifying with kidney disease, and so these kids will go to this camp to, it's just like it's away from the hospitals. They're able to have fun, do these outdoor activities, and they go through dialysis. And I talked to him, and I was like, "How was it?" He was like, "Dude, these kids are a fucking nightmare. These kids are teenagers. They all they do is sit in their hospital beds, and they're online, and they talk about gooning. I had to ban the word gooning from camp." And so it inspired me to write this piece about a camp counselor struggling with his camp, with his dialysis campers. So yeah, this is the name of this piece is, if I can scroll up. I'm forgetting if I renamed it or not. It's kind of long, but I'll try and make it entertaining. And again, while I'm reading, feel free to say you want to read after me. So this is Dialysis Camp. Ahoy, campers! My name is Matthew, and I'm going to be your cabin counselor. Think of me as both your captain and your first aid nurse. But all that aside, cast aside your woes, throw your fear overboard, because we be searching for the treasure of friendship. As ye can tell, this be the pirate cabin, and all of you were to come up with pirate nicknames. So, what did you scallywags come up with? I, Jeremy, what say you? I, Counselor Matt, call me Jack Swallow, Jeremy states confidently. Okay, no, Jeremy, you can't be Jack Swallow. The name can't be sexually inappropriate, Matt says. Aye, Mr. Matt, what about me? Can I be called Davy Moans? Camper Ralphie shouts. No, Ralphie, oh my God, you cannot be Davy Moans. Okay, did anybody here come up with a name that isn't suggestive? What about you, Seth? Counselor Matt asks, hoping one of the boys is normal. Okay, Counselor Matt, what if? I mean, what if I was your first mate? You know, I could be your first matey looking for booty and stuff, Seth says in a low voice. That's so gay, Seth, Ralphie says. Yeah, Seth, that's even gayer than Davy Moans, Jeremy says with a laugh. Counselor Matt takes off his pirate hat and puts his face into his hand with a deep sigh of frustration. Guys, come on. I'm trying to boost your morale. Your parents brought you here so you could be in an environment where you can be yourselves without judgment. You get to be outside in the great outdoors, away from those ugly hospital rooms, for Christ's sake. I know you'll want to have a good time and make jokes, but here at Camp Okawena, we do have rules. Not many rules, but I can't let y'all be doing or saying anything inappropriate. It would make me look bad, Counselor Matt states plainly. Okay, but the name of the camp is Oka Wiener, so doesn't that violate the rules? Or at least set a tone? Seth asks as the other campers snicker. Also, wait a second. Aren't pirates just outcasts who rob, pillage, and screw anything that moves? In fact, none of this makes sense. I don't think I can name one pirate who ever had kidney disease, Ralphie says. Okay, first off, Seth, it's not Okawainer, it's Okawena. It's an indigenous term or something. And second, Ralphie, there were definitely pirates out there who drank way too much rum and definitely died of kidney disease, but their bodies were just never found because they were tossed into the ocean and eaten by sharks. But that's besides the point, Counselor Matt says, trying not to make a face. Wait, are you saying we're going to be drinking rum? Are we going to get shanghaied and wasted? Ralphie asks with a gleam in his eye. Ralphie, you're too young to drink, and alcohol is absolutely not allowed at Camp Okawena. Any other concerns or weird comments? Counselor Matt says, praying the campers are done with their antics. Wait, isn't the nickname for this place Camp O? Man, I sure would like to show the girl campers across the lake my Camp O face, know what I mean? Seth says with a giggle as he pelvic thrusts the air to the delight of his fellow bunkmates. Jeremy, you know that you are not allowed to be intimate with the girls. Plus, it's kind of impossible considering y'all would be hooked up to a dialysis machine. You can hang out and talk with the girls when we eat meals at the dining hall, but you cannot, and I repeat, you cannot be going over to their cabin. Understood? Counselor Matt says with a stern voice. Well, dang, Counselor Matt, if we can't even plunder booty, can we at least goon at our leisure? Seth asks. Aye, he does have a point. If we be pirates true and tried and true, can we not goon as we please? Seth asks. Ralphie says with excitement. How? What? No! You are not allowed to goon in the cabins. Besides, you're all 13 years old. How do you even know what gooning is? Counselor Matt asks with bewilderment. Counselor Matt, we've all been raised by the internet. We barely got to go outside to play with the other kids. We know all the particulars about what gooning is, and in fact, I could speak for the lot of us that gooning is a right of every pirate, Ralphie says. All the other campers in the pirate cabin rally behind Ralphie. Seth and Jeremy even muster enough energy to high-five each other. Matt shakes his head and is determined to restore order. Think about it, Counselor Matt. You could be the captain of the Gooner Squad. I see your muscular forearm. I bet you're a practitioner of the pole polishing craft. How many times have you gooned in a day? 6 times? 7 times? Seth asked, scratching his chin with curiosity. One time, I gooned like 8 times in a day. I tugged on my dingling for so long I almost gooned out, Ralphie says. Okay, that's it. None of you are allowed to goon at all while at Camp Okawena. In fact, the word itself is to be banned and shall not be uttered again. Understand? Matt says. So we can't goon, we can't pillage the camp for goonettes, and we can't even refer to our friends as goons. What the hell are we even supposed to do for fun? Half of us are going to die soon, Ralphie says with a worry on his face. No, Ralphie, gooners never say die, Jeremy says with his fists in the air. No! Okay, the next person to say the word goon is going to have to run around the lake with a backpack full of bricks. Got it? Matt says as the campers finally silence themselves. After an unsuccessful introduction, Counselor Matt retires back to the counselor cabin and prepares a meal for himself before bedtime. He sits down with another nurse, Counselor Sally. Matt and Sally are both nursing students who decided to complete credited hours for their residency by volunteering as nurse counselors at Camp Okawena for the summer. All the other staff members are trained to deal with kidney disease, so all the medical treatments and emergencies are handled on camp grounds. While Matt is smart and has been successful in his residency, Sally has always been one step ahead, excelling in all areas of nursing and gaining the attention of other doctors and surgeons. So, how was your introduction to the boys? Are they faithful pirates ready to set sail at Camp Okawena? Counselor Sally says to Counselor Matt. Counselor Matt is visibly annoyed and wipes his face with a napkin. I didn't even get to read the itinerary for the week. All these boys, I tell you, Sally, something is deeply disturbing about them. And I'm not just talking about the kidney disease. All they want to do is talk about gooning and going over to the girls' cabins, Matt says, throwing his hands in the air. Counselor Sally laughs and takes a swig of water from her camping jug. She shakes her head and clears her throat. Gooning? You don't mean, Sally asks unleadingly. Where did I go? Yes, Sally, these kids who are all too young to even have intercourse are obsessed with being in a state of constant arousal. Perhaps even going further to, well, you know what I mean, Matt says, lowering his head to his plate of beans and mashed potatoes. Well, that was definitely not the answer I was expecting, Sally says, pleased that Matt is already struggling. What about you, Sally? Surely this wasn't an easy day for you, Matt asks hopingly. The girls were very compliant, and they're all getting along just fine. Our cabin theme is princesses, so they all picked fun princess nicknames. Every girl even has their own princess power. Also, if you want to reiterate this to the boys, you can tell them that my girls definitely are not interested in contracting cooties. They're not here to deal with any disgusting boys, Counselor Sally says, knowing this information will bother Counselor Matt. I hope that tomorrow goes over better than today. If I don't get the boys to get their heads out of the gutter, then we'll never win the canoe race, Matt says. Well, maybe you should get to know them a little better. Boys are impressionable, and if you treat them like equals, maybe that will help. You're smart. You'll know what to do, Counselor Sally says as she leaves the dining table. Counselor Matt hates when Sally is right, but this may be the only shot to restore order to the pirate cabin. He cleans his plate and prepares for the next day of activities at Camp Okawena. The next morning, Counselor Matt goes to the pirate cabin to greet his campers with a morning alarm. As he walks through the front door, he takes out a cowbell and starts to ring it aloud. Yarg! Ahoy, mateys! It be time to rise and shine!
А, то
Clear
нужно,
off your...
отогнуть усики, извлечь кольцо, блядь, и после чего, то есть рычаг отпустить.
I'm curious. What is this? Ah, no black dick. All right, removed. Anyways, okay, back to the story. Be sure to get Clear off your morning barnacles and shake out your sea legs. Be sure to get dressed and ready for breakfast, or I'll make you walk the plank, Matt shouts at the behest of the campers. Counselor Matt, I barely got any sleep. Can we have 5 more minutes? Ralphie says, turning away in his bunk. Yeah, besides, I haven't gotten to perform my morning ritual yet, Seth says in the bunk above him. Morning ritual? Morning ritual? What would that entail, matey? Matt asks with sincerity. He's trying to start a fire in his pants, Counselor Matt, Jeremy said from under his blanket. Yeah, Counselor Matt, Seth is a real freak. You can't trust this guy around wood. He's like a I mean, he, he's like a lumberjack with a terminal case of the morning crank. Boy just can't help it, Ralphie says as the other campers giggle and hee-haw. It's best you come back later or else Seth will be walking around with a plank, if you catch my drift. Jeremy says, trying not to snort. Okay, guys, that's enough. Come on, let's get up and get ready. Breakfast today is eggs, bacon, and toast. You don't want all the girls eating your breakfast, right? Matt says, trying to coax the boys out of their bunks. Counselor Matt, we all know that the girls aren't hungry for any of that slop. They're hungry for a nice, long breakfast sausage, Seth says, making the other campers burst out laughing. Counselor Matt shakes the cowbell, ringing it louder and louder until the boys drop the act and get out of their beds. Okay, now that I have you filthy deckhands out in the open, I want you all to close your eyes, Matt says with his cowbell at the ready. The boys do as they're told, but not without making a side comment. Damn, I didn't know Counselor Matt was a freak like that, Seth remarked to Ralphie, who slapped Seth to make him stop. Is this what they do at those ditty parties I've been hearing so much about? Jeremy said, opening one eye. Hush! Okay, I have to do this because, well, you all know what comes with kidney disease. If you wet the bed during the night, raise your hand. No judgment, I just have to know so that I can wash your sheets, Matt says. One by one, all the campers in the cabin raised their hands, which is exactly what Matt feared. Well, shit. Okay, you can lower your hands now. Let's all go to the showers and then we'll head to breakfast. I'll start washing your clothes and bed sheets as you wait in line. Hurry, you filthy sea dogs, Matt says as he shakes the cowbell with a fury. Okay, and that's about as much as I have so far. I'm curious to see where it will go, but I've done the research. But yeah, that's my silly little gooning piece, featuring some random Russian dude who was, I don't know what, he was like featuring a fucking vape tool or something. That was very entertaining. All right, so that will be, I'm going to cut it there. Thank you all so much for joining us for this second edition of the Media Agnostic Doom Journaling Open Mic series. Once again, my name is Morgenrede. This will be going on every Friday, unless something happens, unless I'm too busy gooning, or I'm sick, or it's the holidays, or my Wi-Fi is fucked up, or I'm being kidnapped. Or if I can't find any face makeup, I will fucking cancel. I swear to God, swear to fucking God. But yeah, thank y'all so much. But yeah, we do have a after party. So if you want to read in the after party, if y'all want to be silly, silly little motherfucking doomers in the after party, feel free.